uh, that you walked in. Okay. We're going to get to the question you asked yesterday about
Which was?
about a girl.
Oh,
Okay. You were the one who asked it, right?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Could be theoretically. We're going to get to that. Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's don't run over to the next downward. Okay. So what happened? Okay. So we're on, as I said. Okay. So now the point is we're on 69B. Okay, and if you're using Art Scroll, it's B. We said B5. Ben velo bat, a son and not a daughter. Tanya, and a Braita teaches Amar Rabbi Shimon. Bottom line, says Rabbi Shimon, Bedinhu shetehe batu yaliot ben sarer umoreh. Logically, okay, he says, Rabbi Shimon, that it's very possible that a girl could just also be classified as a rebellious and stubborn child, okay? Which leads us now on the top of our new Amud, a lot of Gemara, okay? Why? Shahakol Mitsuyin Etzla Ba'avera, okay? That all will be hanging out with her for the purpose of sexual activities. In other words, an early life of gluttony and drunkenness, according to Art Scroll in note number 1, would lead her to use up all the monies that she had received from her family, and therefore to support herself, she would resort to harlotry. Okay, that was Art Scroll's explanation. Okay, El Gzerata Katuvi, but rather this is a Gzera, this is a decree based on the text, Ben Velo Bat. Okay, so that's the answer that the Art Scroll and the Gemara gives. Okay, all right. We now continue with a new Mishnah, right? So our question might necessarily be, okay, if we're starting a new Mishnah, okay, are we still, what are we dealing with? Not with a new individual, a new offense that's punishable by skila, but we're still dealing with this, what we said earlier, okay, is the effort to focus on the issue of ben sorer umoreh, and are we continuing to try to limit it, okay? Mematai chayav, at what point would we say that this individual is liable? Misheyochal trei tamar basar, once they eat a certain measurement of meat, according to this, both Gemaras that I used, okay, tartemar of basar, it's a weight of 1/3 of a large piece of meat, eating it all at the same time. Okay, so what happens? Okay, and they would drink, okay, a half a log of Italian wine. Now, that is basically Tanakama. We have a challenge to that with Rabbi Yossi Omer, okay? He says, Mareh basar. He gives a different weight of meat. By the way, Tamar was considered as a Greek term, okay, whereas Mina is with a inch older biblical weight, okay? Right? And what happens? Yes. Wait and see. Wait and see. Okay? Wait and see. All right? All right? Okay? It's more than just a question of cost. Okay? All right? Okay? We're going to get back into that item, into that issue later on in the Gemara. Okay? Rabbi Yossi says, Maneh basar, a weight of a maneh of meat, velog yayin, okay, and an entire log, okay, of wine. Now, I want to quickly point out, as we're going to move into Gemara, what is the difference between Rabbi Yossi's measurement and Tanakama's measurement is something that the Gemara is going to address. Okay? Okay? All right, that's why I said the Gemara is going to address it. Okay? Achal bechavurat mitzvah. However, the Mishnah goes on and says, what if he consumed this amount of meat and wine, okay, bechavurat mitzvah, in some gathering that was associated with a mitzvah. For example, achibur hachodesh, or he ate it in the occasion of the intercalation of a month. Achal ma'aser sheni b'Yerushalayim, or he ate it as part of the bringing the month, okay, and buy food there and eating ma'aser sheni. Achal nevelot utrefot shkatzim v'ramasim, or what happens if he ate all kinds of forbidden items, creeping creatures, etc., etc. Achal tavel, or if he ate tevel, okay, umaaser, and tithe, rishon, the very first tithe, or tevel, in other words, grain that had not been tithed, okay, shalom et la trumato, where the truma had not been taken. Umaaser shei, okay, shiftu. Other example of tithes or sanctified items that had not been redeemed. Because again, they want to try to limit these as many examples as I'm suggesting, to limit as many possibilities that we could clearly define the youngster, okay, under the circumstances. If we've already said that it has to do eating with a certain measurement of food, and now we go ahead and say not only that, but even if he eats that measurement under certain circumstances, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay? Right? So what happens? Okay? Okay, we're going to get to that shortly. Okay, we'll get to that. Michael, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. Okay? Achal davar shehu mitzvah, v'davar shehu avera. Or he ate something that was associated with a mitzvah. Or he ate something that was forbidden in a situation. Achal kol ma'achal, achbasar. Or let's say he ate all sorts of food, but he didn't specifically eat meat. Or we said he drank all sorts of beverages, but he did not drink wine. Okay, notice again, we're seeing all these situations that are presenting limitation. Okay? Yes and yes. Yes. By trying to define it, you're also limiting it. Okay? Exactly. Again, remember, come back to the whole example that we've seen before. We've had a pasuk that clearly said that it is up to the community to come up with a justice, okay, to come to terms with punishing those who deserve punishment, but at the same time to look at the situation to see if we can exempt the person. So by defining, okay, the offense, the circumstances surrounding the offense, you are also then able to specified under this condition, they would get such and such a punishment. Under such and such a condition, they would not want. Remember, this is a death penalty. I'm not prepared to say that. I'm not prepared to say that. Okay?
In terms, it's illogical to kill a 13-year-old for overeating. The whole thing is a halacha l'motion.
Okay. Remember, we're going to see. Remember, there's a whole presentation as we go through the Quran. Okay? If the kid were to do this initially, one time, they're not going to kill him on one shot. Okay? You've got to understand that there's a process. Okay? Okay. All right. So I have a different example. Again, and we'll jump back into this. Masorah is that the host has to steal the money from the father. Okay? What happens if he stole the money from the mother? Let's take that example, all right? What happens if there's no father? Okay? All of these would be explanations that could therefore indicate I removed child from that category. Lo hayav v'lo nidar. Ultimately. Yeah, exactly. I'm not prepared to say that. I'm not prepared to say that.
You can't question a halacha l'motion.
You have a pasuk. The pasuk defines a status.
Like Rabbi Kiva says about Misa's face. He says, if it was up to me.
That's his view. That was his particular view. Okay, so we have to see. We have to follow we may come to that conclusion, but I'm not prepared to say that when the pasuk is presented and Chazal purpose is to darshan the pasuk and apply it pasuk in the times in which they live, and to define it, that they're trying to define it out of existence. Okay. That's a whole different issue. That's a different issue. Okay. Okay, correct. Okay, so what happens? Let's come back to one shiur, okay? Okay, shata kol mashke v'lo shata yayin. Or we say he drank some other beverage, okay, but not wine. Okay? Eino ne'aseh ben soreh umoreh. He is not considered in the category of ben soreh umoreh ad she'achal basar v'yishteh yayin. Okay? So we have specifically defined the menu at this point. Okay? Almost. Shene'amar, why? Because the pasuk says, Zolel v'soveya, that he's a glutton and he's a guzzler. Okay? Okay. The afapi she'ein raya ledavar, even though there is no clear raya, no clear specific reference, zecher ledavar. Okay? Why? Shene'amar, al tehi v'sov'ai yayim v'zolelei basar lamo. So we take another pasuk, we use that pasuk perhaps as the warning, as the azara, and therefore apply it to this situation. Okay, now we go into the Gemara finally. Okay, what happens here? Gemara is going to initially discuss the fact that between Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi, we saw this argument about the measurement. Okay? Amar Rabbi Zera, this is Rabbi Zera, Tatima Zeh. Okay? Eniyo de'amah. This measurement of a tatima, I don't know what it is. Remember we said it was a Greek term. Okay? So what happens? Ela mitoch shekafal Rabbi Yossi b'yayin. since we see that Rabbi Yossi's, his statement reflected a doubling of the amount of wine, nimsa kofel af basar. We can assume, he suggests, Rabbi Zera, that the measurement of meat is also doubled. Okay? That's his point. V'nimtza tartema, and therefore this would determine chatzi mana, that a tartema would be half a mana. Amar Rav Chanan bar, okay, says Rav Chanan bar Molda, all right? Amar Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Huna, Eino chayav ad sheyikach basar bazo. He's going to give a different perspective. Okay, he is not liable unless he buys the meat cheaply, v'yochal, and eats it. Okay, yayin bazo, buys the wine cheaply, v'yishteh, and drinks it. Why? Because again, we say, dichtiv zoleh v'sovea. He's a drunkard, he's a glutton, he's a whatever. No goodness. Okay? We'll get to that phrase too shortly. Okay? So what happens? All right? So in other words, by buying it on the cheap and eating and consuming, okay, that's part of the issue. Okay.
It's interesting. This is a broadening, not a limiting.
Okay.
Because he has to steal less money. It's easier to pilfer a couple of bucks from your wallet than a
okay.
large amount.
You may have that shot. Okay. Well, you may have that shot. I did not find that shot. Okay.
You learned to
Amar Rav Chanan bar Molda, and he says further, Amar Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Huna, Eino chayav ad yechol basarai. Now he gives another clarification. Okay, he's not liable unless he eats raw meat, v'yishtet yayin chai, and drinks undiluted wine. Okay? Aini, is that really the case? Asks the Gemara. Baha Rav Rav Yosef, the two of them, the Amrei Travayu, that they both say, Achal basar chai v'shata yayin chai, if he ate raw meat and ate undiluted wine, Eino nesa ben sorer mo'er. Steve. Okay, he is not considered in the category of ben sorer mo'er. Okay? So that disagrees what we saw before. Amar Ravina, says Ravina, Yayin Chai, Mazig Velo Mazug. When we say that it's, quote, undiluted wine, what we're really saying is it's only partially diluted and partially not diluted. Okay? I remind everybody in the Pesach when we say Mosgin Lo, Kos Sheni, Mosgin Lo, etc. Their wine was more like a syrup, okay, and they had to add water to it to dilute it somewhat in order to make it more palatable. Thank you. What do we mean by that? Okay, bashil velo bashil. Partly cooked and not partly cooked. Kibasar kiva da'achle ginavai. Like meat has been scorched as eaten by robbers. Okay? We all understand what's the failure? Ben Drusai. Okay? Is the parallel. Partly cooked meat. Okay? All right, let's go on. Rabba Rav Yosef, Amrei Travayu, and the two of them said, Achal basar maliach. If he salty meat, Yayin mito, and drank wine that came right from the wine press. He is not considered liable, okay, as a rebellious son. Snanata. And we have a Mishnah elsewhere that teaches as follows, okay, Erev Tisha B'Av. So now we're going to raise a question. What do we mean by this idea of salty meat, okay? In other words, we have another example of that phrase coming up, and we're going to see are the two explanations parallel or are they not? Okay? Erev Tisha B'Av, on the eve of Tisha B'Av, okay? In other words, you're looking forward to what you can eat for your meal at the end of the Tisha B'Av. Lo yachal adam shnei tavshilin. Okay? The person should not eat two cooked items. V'lo yachal basar, v'lo yishteh yayin. He should not eat meat and not drink wine. Vitana. And here we have a braita. Achal, aval ochel, hu basar maliach. But if he eats salty meat, okay, v'shoteh yayin migito, and drinks wine directly from the wine press, okay, what happens? Basar maliach. Okay, so when we say salty meat, what are we talking about? Ad kama. Okay, to what degree? Amar Rabbi Chanina bar Kahana, he says, Kol zman shahu kishlamim. We're talking about meat that is similar to shlamim. Okay, shlamim, offering, a day, a night, and a day. Okay, is the fact, and that they put salt on it.
So it has to be salted more than...
It's not, on the one hand, it's not salted totally to preservative, but it is salted to last a certain amount of time. Okay, exactly. V'yayin migito, and when we say wine from the press, ad kama, what are we talking about? Calls manchos, as long as it's continued to be fermenting. V'tatanya, but haven't we been taught elsewhere in a braita? Yayin toses ein bo mishum gilui. Haven't we been taught that wine, while it's still fermented, is not, okay, in the situation of being uncovered, okay, which we talk about in terms of, okay, in other words, it is not within that frame, okay, that it could be susceptible. Okay, uncovered liquid is easily susceptible to food. Okay, so, or a snake venom, okay? The kama to see sato, and how, what do we say is the length of time? It's fermenting shlosha yamin, 3 days. Okay, so what happens? So are we really, what about the comparison between saying it in regards to the Tisha B'Av and saying it in regards to the Ben Sorer Moreh? Is there a parallel here or not? Okay, hacha. Here, when we're saying, what is the situation? Can we compare? Hatam, there, okay, with regards to Tisha B'Av, Mishum Simchahu. There we have a situation that you're looking forward to having this meal at the end of the fast.
This is a meal prior to...
Right, the eve of the fast. Okay? Kol zman shahu kishlamim, nami eat be'simcha. So long as it's in a situation similar to shlamim, okay, we say that it still reflects the positive element, okay, in this situation. Hacha, but in our case of the Ben Tzver Moreh, mishum imshuchihu, we're concerned that the amount of meat that he's eating is going to lead him on or draw him on to, okay, to do other kinds of activities, worse than just that. That's the point. Ubechol shahu lo mamshich, okay? But more than that is not going to lead him. Okay? V'yayin ad arba'im yom, the one regarding the 40 days. Amar Rabbi Chana, he says, lo v'yayin ba'olam, ela lenachem avelim l'shalem schar l'rishayim. His view, okay, is that when we talk about wine, the main purpose of wine is to basically bring comfort to mourners, to people who are in difficult situations, and as a reward for wicked people because they're happy at what they've done and they're celebrating. Okay?
And they will get their
Really?
rewards now and not
Well,
get
we'll see.
the other.
Shenamar, as it says, Tanucha the Ayin L'Marein, based on that posture. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, my dechtiv. Okay, what do we mean with receipts? Another pasuk. And make a note here. Yeah, make a note at scroll number 34. Al tirat yayin kiyadam. Okay, citing the pasuk there, right? That don't declare wine unless it's really red. Al tirat yayin shema'adim pneihem. Don't fear the wine unless it's going to redden your face. Shel risha'im, of the wicked ones, ba'olam hazeh. And this word, umalbin pneihem liolam haba, and it brings them embarrassment, I'm going to say, okay, in the world to come. Rabba Amam, this is Rabba. Al tirayayin, another drash on the pasuk. Al tirayayin kiyatadam. Al tirayayin sha'achrit. Okay? And again, the fact that too much wine is going to cause bloodshed. Okay? Rabbi Kahana, Rabbi Kahana raises a contradiction with regard to psukim. Katuv, okay, on one hand, we have that it's written tirush, but ukarina tirush, while it's written one way, it's pronounced another way. Okay, so what happened to Zachar? Nasa Rosh. If he merits, okay, it becomes something that's good. So is he. Lo Zachar, he doesn't merit. Nasa Rosh. It becomes poor. Rabba Rami Kti. Rabba is a contradiction to Suki. Yishamach, okay, one raise Yishamach, I'm sorry. Okay? Right? Okay? It causes his destruction. Okay? Ahainu da'amar Rabba, and this is similar to what Rabba says elsewhere. Kamra v'rechane, okay, we're saying that the wine and fragrant scents, pikhin, okay, they encourage a person's intelligence. They help that. Amar Rav Amram, says Rav Amram, Berei de Rabbi Shimon Bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Chanina, in the name of Rabbi Chanina. My dichti. What about a pasuk that says to us, Lami oi, lami avoy, woe is me, oi is me, lami madanim, lami siach, lami pitaim chinam, lami hachleliot einayim. Okay, so again, citing these ideas of red eyes, etc. Okay, all right. So what happens? Leme'achrin al hayayin. It refers to those who linger around wine. Okay, in other words, extend their drinking. Leba'im lachkor mimsa. Okay, and that's the carrying out the next part. Right? Okay, for those who come to examine, to indulge. Ki ata Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, what happens? He says, Amre b'ma'arava, they say in Eretz Yisrael, Haikra, the following pasuk, Man v'darish le, mereshe l'seife, okay, one who darkens the pasuk from, okay, its beginning to its end straight through, madrish, okay, it's a valid drasha. Umesef madrish, and one who darshans it then from the end to the beginning straight through, okay, right, what happens? Darish ober, okay, right, Alina, okay, oh, I'm sorry, one who does it the opposite direction, Darish ober Galilee, and now this was over Galilean who bring forth the following drasha. Okay? In other words, how do you explain a section that deals with drinking? Okay? What's the best example? Okay, is the story of, right, we see in a moment, the story of Noah. Okay, so what happens? He tells us, Yud Gimel Vavin. We have an example of 13 times that the letter Vav and this, and this, and this is presented, okay, in this whole section about Noah drinking, etc. And what happens? So he cites the whole examples here. Right? Nemru Bayayim. 13 times the Vav was associated additional with one. Beginning, Vayichal Noach Ish Ha'adama, Vayita. First of all, we say, and Noach began a person of the land, he planted a vineyard. Next, Vayoshet min Hayai, Vayiskar. Vayesh, he drank from the wine and he became shikar, became drunk. Okay? Next, Vayitgel betocha olav, and he was lying there in his tent. Right? Okay, and what happens? He was revealed there in his tent. Okay? Vayar Cham Avi Canaan at Ervat Aviv. And again, Avav and Cham saw the nakedness of his father. Furthermore, Vayaged Lishnei Achav Bachutz. And then he told his two brothers outside. And then Vayikach Shem V'Yafet et Hasimla. Okay, V'yasimu al Shechem Shneihem, V'yelchu achoranit, V'yechasu et ervat avihem. Again, a number of vavs. And they, Shem and Cham, took a blanket, and they put it, walked backwards into the tent, carrying it on their shoulders, and they put it on their father to cover his nakedness. Vav again, upneihem, etc. Vayikatz Noach, another vav, and Noach awoke from his wine, right? V'yeda she'aselo bano hakatan, and he realized what his youngest son had done. Okay, now we have a little machloket. What did the kid do? Okay, Rav Ushmuel, the two of them. Chad Amar Sarso, one said he castrated him. V'chad Amar Rav O, and another said he sodomized him. Man Amar Sarso, the one who said he castrated him, mitoch shekilkalu b'revi'i, kilkalu b'revi'i. Okay, since he prevented Noah from being able to produce a fourth son, therefore Noah cursed the fourth son.
His fourth.
What would be his fourth son? Uman Amar, and the one who says Reva'o, that he sodomized him, Gamar, he learned it from Vayar. Vayar, again, two psukim, right? With the same word, Gezer Shava. Ktiv Hacha, Vayar Ham, Avi Canaan, et Ervat Aviv, and he saw the nakedness of his father. All right? Uktiv Hatam, and elsewhere it's written, Vayar Otam Shchem ben Chamor Begomer. Okay? So that also had to do with, okay, sexual acts. Okay? Bishlem Lamanda Marsoso. That's understandable, given the one who suggested that the act was one of castration. Mishum Hachi Kilelo Bervi'i, because that makes sense that since it prevented him from having the fourth son, he cursed the fourth son of that child. Ela Lamanda Maravo, but according to the one who said he sodomized him, Maishna Ravi'i. Okay, what do we learn from the fact of this act? Gilitaya Bahadya, okay, that he basically cursed him directly. Okay, but here, Vahahave. No, it's possible that he did both. Okay, now, Vayichal Noach Isha Adama Vitakerem. We started off his drasha with that pasuk. Okay, that Noah was a person of the land and planted a vineyard. Amar Rav Chisda, this is Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Ukva, it's in the name of Rav Ukva. Va'amre la Amar Ukva, Amar Rabbi Zakai, Amar leha Kadosh Baruch Hu leNoah. That Hashem says to Noah, okay, Noah, he says, Lo haya lecha lilmod me Adam harishon, Okay, shouldn't you have learned from the first man, right? Shelo garam lo elayayin. Okay, what happened to him was as a result of wine. Kiman, according to whom? Da'amar, as he was said, Oto ilan sha'achal mimenu adam harishon was not an apple. Okay, okay, was not. Okay, okay, all right.
The Christians say. The Christians say that.
Geffen haya. It was a what? Grapevine. Okay, should have learned from that. Tanya, Rabbi Meir. As Rabbi Meir says here, Oto ilan shachal adam harishon mimenu geffen haya, that it was a grapevine. Why? As we go over to our new Amud. But this doesn't show that he was a bad man. He just got drunk, but his kids were bad. This just shows what happens when you get drunk, but it doesn't prove
Yeah,
the
but
sin.
if
He
you're,
should have
he
learned
should
from
have
it.
learned from it.
if you're a good man before getting drunk.
Okay, the point is he didn't learn. I'm going to give you, okay, Heshi, there's a statement elsewhere in the Gemara. Nichnas yayin yatzacho. Okay, once you overly imbibe, okay, then everything is out. Okay, not just secrets. Okay, person's behavior is unlimited. Okay,
I just want to point out when
what did he do wrong?
Russia comes from Noah was referred to Ish Adama, and Adam Harishon was made from Adama. So that extra word pasuk is how you link it to Adam.
Could be. That's a nice drash. Okay. I didn't think you made it up. Okay. She'en lecha davar shemevi yilala v'adam eliyayin. Okay. You don't have anything that brings person sorrow and sadness, sorrow and okay, all things like that. Okay. Except for wine. Okay? So the implication is when the you Heshi, do you drink? You sell him only for religious purposes. Okay? Okay? Right. Okay? That's a different issue. Rabbi Huda now. There was a sin here. Okay, so he said chitahaya. No, it wasn't a thing. It was wheat. It was grain. Why? Because he argues that a child does not know how to start really speaking and say the name of father and mother until they are reach an stage in life that they can have produce, cereal. Rabbi Nehemiah says as follows: Te'inahaya. Okay, what a fig. All right. Shibadavar kilkalu bo nitkanu. Okay, that which brought about their, let's say, their curse, their downfall. Okay, also was such that became a remedy, a savior to them. How? Says the pasuk, Vayikru aleh te'ina. Okay, that they took leaves from a fig tree, large leaves. Davar. Okay, so now we go on. Another pasuk, another story. Okay, we're going to say the pasuk here, and Lemuel here, it means King Solomon. Okay, Divrei Lemuel, Melech Masa, Asher Yesartu Imo. Okay, the words of Lemuel, which we mean Shlomo, okay, who was the king. Okay, the admonition, when he used the word Masa, the message that was stated to him by his mother. Okay, so what happened? Well, she did more than just yelled at him. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, is Rabbi Yochanan, Shum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochanan, and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochanan. We're talking about the fact that she tied him, bound him to a pillar, as almost as if one would be bound for flogging. Okay? Va'amralo, and she said to him, okay, ma bari, uma bar bitni, uma bar nidri. Okay, three phrases here. What my son, and what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows, what my son. Okay, what happens? And the Gemara is going to spell that out for us. Ma bari, what my son. Hakol yodim, she'avicha yarei shemayim hava. Everyone knows that your father was God-fearing. Achshav, what will happen as a result of that? They see you go out drinking and boozing, etc., etc. Yomru, what will they say? Imo de garmalo. It's the mother's fault. Okay, right. Uma bar bitni, and what about the son of my womb? Kol hanashim shabet avich, all the other women of your father's household, and his other wives, kevan shemit abrot, once they became pregnant, shuv einan ro'ot pnei hamelech. They then did not, once they were pregnant, they never went to have further sexual activity with the king, with their, right? Va'ani, but I, dachakti v'nichnasti kadei sheyeh li ben mevuraz mevan. But even in my pregnancy, towards even the end of my pregnancy, I nevertheless went to have sexual with him, so that I could produce a child, okay, who would be fair, radiant, strong, etc., etc. Okay, well, I don't know about that. Uma bar nedre, and what about the son of my vows? Kol nashim shabet avich, all the other women of your husband, of your father, havu nodrot yeheli ben hagun l'malchut, okay, would make a vow that they should have a son who is appropriate to be the king, to follow and take on the rule. Vani, but I, nadarti va'amarti, I took a vow and I said, Yeheli ben zariz umimule b'torah v'hagun l'nevit, I should have a son who would be prepared to be full of Torah learning and ultimately have the ability to even be a prophet. Okay, so what happens now? Okay, we get another piece from the Gemara. El l'mlachim l'mu'al, el l'mlachim shatu. Okay, we have another pasuk that again refers to the kings went Solomon. Okay, to the kings he was drinking wine. What happens? El hamlachim amralo, further admonition. To the kings, she said, she said to him, Malacha etza malachim, sheshotim yayin umishtakrim, va'omrim lama lanu. Okay, so a play on the name Limuel to Lama Lanu El. Why do we have? In other words, why are you hanging out with these other kings getting drunk and you're questioning the existence of the very rule of Hashem? Okay? Ularosnim. Okay, and furthermore, and as far as rulers, okay, what happens? Okay, there again. Okay. Okay, a shachar. Okay, what about drinking there? Mi shekol rose olam giluyim lo yishte yayin v'yishtaker. Okay, that what happens is when we use the phrase rosnim, rulers, it's again a play on the word, on that word. Why? Because all of the razeh, all of the secrets of the world will then be revealed as a result of drinking wine and becoming intoxicated. Ikeda Amre, and there are others who say as follows, Mi shekol rosne olam mashkimin lepitcho v'yishte yayin v'yishtaker. Others explain it again that the rulers of the world, okay, they get up, okay, early, and they're involved all, particularly in a lot of drinking and intoxication. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Minayin Shechazar Shlomo V'Deleimo. How do we know that Solomon eventually did tshuva, okay, and acknowledged his mother's admonitions to him? Dichtiv, because it's written elsewhere, okay, in another pasuk in Mishlei, Ki ba'ar anochi me'ish v'lo binat adam li. Okay, make a note by art school number 14. Okay, what happens? Ki ba'ar anochi me'ish. Okay, the first part of the pasuk. Okay, in other words, we're talking about having learned something, gathered something from a man. Mi Noach. How do we know it's from Noach? Dichtiv, vayachel Noach ish ha'adama. Okay, all right. So in other words, that's the association. V'lo binat adamli, and the wisdom, not the man's wisdom for me. How play on the word Adam? Okay, what are we referring to? The first man. Adze Adam Harishon. So the implication is, says Solomon, indeed I did learn from the models of the examples of Noach and of Adam Harishon, what happened to them as a result of wine and intoxication. As a result, I am a new man. Okay? Ava b'chavurat mitzvah. Okay, now we continue to go back and cite a section from our Mishnah. We said that the young man would not be considered liable as a ben sorer umoreh if he were associated with a mitzvah-oriented event. Okay? And she asked how come some positive, some what would appear to be negative. Let's see what the Gemara is going to tell us. Amar Rabbi Abahu, says Rabbi Abahu, Eino chayav, again, he's not liable, ad she'achal b'chavura shekula srikin. He's not liable unless he's with a group of good-for-nothings. Okay? All right? No goodness. Okay? V'ha'anan chatznan, and we, however, learn as follows in a Mishnah, achal b'chavurat mitzvah, eino ne'aseh ben sorer moreh. That if he ate in a community observing a mitzvah, excuse me, he is not going to be considered at all a ben sorer moreh. Tama de mitzvah. Why? Because he's involved in the observance of a mitzvah. Ha, lav mitzvah, but involved in a group that are drinking and eating, okay, etc., and it's not mitzvah-oriented, af agav, the lav kula srikin, then that would imply even if they're not good for nothings, okay? Ha, kamash malan, and therefore it comes to teach us, the af agav, the kula srikin, that even though they all may be good for nothings, kevan de mitzvah ka'asik, so long as we might say there's at least a single person involved in this performance of a mitzvah under these circumstances, right? Lo mimshich, he will not be dragged along.
Besides him?
Besides him. Okay? That he will not be led down the primrose path. Okay? Achal be'ibur hachodesh. What about the fact of the intercalation of the month? It says as an example. The memra, okay, to tell us the basar v'yayin masku. Are we saying that they were brought up wine and meat to eat, brought up to the attic where they would meet to do the intercalation? Is that the case? Vahatanya. But haven't we learned elsewhere in a Braita? Ein olim la ela b'pat dagan v'kitnit v'belabel. Right? Bilvad. Okay, no, they weren't brought up wine and meat. Instead, they were brought up a much simpler meal. Okay, of bread and chickpeas, things like that. Okay, so what happens? Hakamash malan. Here too, this comes to teach us. Afagav de enulim la elabapat ukitnit. Even though they did not bring anything up other than bread and, let's say, chickpeas or beans, V'ihu asik basar v'yayin b'achal. But he was involved in indulging in meat and wine and ate it kevan de b'mitzvah ka'asik, because they were involved in doing a mitzvah, lo mamshich. Again, he will not be led astray. Okay? Tana Rabbanan, another Brighton. Ein olim ba'ibur hachodesh, hachot me'asara b'nei adam. Since we were already talking about intercalation of the month and having a observance mitzvah, okay, for that, we say they don't go up in less than 10 people. We had to have a minyan. Secondly, ve'ein olim la ela b'pat dagan v'kitni. And again, we only bring them a certain kind of bread, okay, and beans. Ve'ein olin la ela or iburo. And we say it was only done on the following day after the intercalation.
The
Okay.
night of this, the
Right.
night in the
Afterwards.
middle of the second day of Rosh Chodesh.
Well, we'll get to it.
That's what
Okay, what it's saying is they didn't celebrate till afterwards. They brought the food up during the day.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay,
the
and then they
is
celebrated at night.
was
Ve'ein la bayom. They don't bring it up a day, ela balayla, but rather a day. Vahatanya. But aren't we taught elsewhere in a Braita? Ein olim la balayla ela bayom. That they don't bring it up at night, but rather in the day. Kida amar Rabbi Chia, said by Rabbi Chia bar Abba lebnei, to his sons. What did he tell them? Achrifu va'alu. Okay, ascend early, go up during the day. Achrifu ufoku, and descend early. Okay, the next, right?
very early.
The next morning. Ki hechi de lishma'u b'cho enshe, so that people will learn from you about the intercalation of the event. Okay, another section from our Mishnah. Achal ma'asar sheni b'Yerushalayim. What about eating the ma'asar sheni in Jerusalem? Okay, what happens? All right? Dechi orche, okay, as is the normal, natural manner. Who deka achile, as he would do so normally. People to Jerusalem to buy their food, okay, to fulfill the mitzvah of Maser Sheni, and therefore lo mamshich. He would, okay, that's a mitzvah. He would not be led astray. Okay, what happens? How are we doing time? Okay, all right. Achal mevelot utrefot shkutzim v'ramasim. If he ate all that creepy crawly stuff, Amar Rava, says Rava, achal basa oaf. Let's say he ate some sort of fowl. Eino ne'asa ben se'er umoreh. He is not considered liable as a rebellious child.
It's delicious.
Okay, but vaha, says Anan Tanan. Okay, but we learn as follows in another Mishnah: Achal nevelot utrefot shkatzim v'ramasim. If he ate all these kinds of forbidden items, eino ne'aseh ben sorer moreh. He is not considered in the category of a rebellious child. If that's the case, I might learn from that, infer really from that the following. Ha tahorim. But in regards to eating things that are tahor, ne'aseh ben sorer moreh. Would he then suddenly become eligible to be category of a ben sorer?
The better off he is.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Okay. All right. So what happens? Kitznan nami matnitin lahashlim. No, when we taught this Mishnah, it was to tell us that he was simply only filling in, so to speak, with some of these other items. The fowl was not the ikar of the meal. It wasn't the main part of the meal, but it was simply additional part.
But it's mitzaref to the shear.
Okay, so what happens? Achal davar shahu mitzvah v'davar avera. What about something that was both mitzvah and inappropriate? What were we talking about? Davar mitzvah. What kind of a meal, other meal, might be a davar mitzvah? Tanchumei avelim, a meal of condolence for mourners. Davar avera, what kind of meal might be it's one that is, again, sinful, appropriate. Ta'anit tzibur, eating on a public fast. Okay? V'tamai, what's the reasoning? Amar kra, we have a pasuk that tells us, Einenu shomea bikolenu. The young man does not listen to our, namely the parents' voice. Bikolenu velo bikolo shemakom. It's the fact that he's rebelling against his parents' direction and not in regards to rebelling against Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the point that he's saying. Okay? Okay, let's go on. Achal kol ma'achal velo achal basar. What about our piece in the Mishnah that said he ate all sorts of foods but not meat? Shata kol mashkeh velo shata yayin v'chulei. That he drank all sorts of beverages, okay, and not wine. Achal kol ma'achal, okay, velo achal basar. What do we mean? La'atuye dveila ki'ilut. Okay, we're talking about pressed figs from the location of Ke'ilah. Why? Because those figs can tend to make somebody intoxicated. Okay? Shata kol mashke velo shata yayin. If he drank the beverages, okay, and what happened but didn't drink wine? Le'etuye dvash v'chalav. That meant including if he drank honey or certain milk, Titania. Why? Because we're taught elsewhere in a Braita, achal dveila ki'ilit v'shata dvash v'chalav. If he ate pressed figs from Kehilah. Wait. Hold on. V'shata dvash v'chalav. Okay, or if he drank these other things, and now the person that we're focusing on is a Kohen, v'nichnas l'mikdash, and he enters the mikdash, the sacred, chayav, he would then be liable. And go and die.
Not for a being sorry removing.
But
No
not,
milkshakes before
okay, right, chayav. Okay, that's the point. All right, we'll stop right there in the top.
More of a gluttony
to go to
if he
Kalia.
ate trafe and
The purpose
He violates other mitzvot.
disobeying his parents. So he's disobeying God. That's an
No,
And I'm not mad at you, Ma. I'm mad at God.
okay, the implication is, again, trying to limit of this particular situation, put a early teenager to death. Okay, elsewhere we're going to see, after the first offense,
It's a good
he's
thing
brought to
they
a
don't do
local base din, and he's
this.
given
And for
malchus.
teenagers.
After the second offense, okay, again is brought to a base din, given malchus, and given a severe warning. It's only after the third offense that he's actually given it.
doing the same.
Steve, did you ever learn with the Christians how they interpret the eight sadas? No, I did. They think it was an apple
Midrash,
because the Romans looked upon the apple